Good evening, all students. As I inform, this session is for full stack development. If you are looking for digital marketing, you have to join to the other link, okay, which I am sharing in a chat right now. Kindly open your chat box in the same meeting. There you will get the Zoom link and YouTube link as well. From there, you can join to the digital marketing day one session. This is not the digital marketing day one session. This is a full stack development. If you guys want to continue with the full stack development, you can stay here. If you guys are looking for a digital marketing class, which is starting from today, that is SDP on digital marketing day one, that link which I have shared on a chat, kindly click on that Zoom link and join over there. Drop here. So I have reshared the Zoom link and YouTube link on the chat. If your students are looking for the digital marketing course, kindly join to that link. This is a full stack development session. Yes, students, as I informed, like if you're looking for digital marketing session, the link I have shared on a chat, kindly join over to that Zoom link. This is the full stack development session. If you guys wanted to be continue on this, you can stay back, or else if you want to join for digital marketing day one session, you have to drop here and you have to join the Zoom link on a chat which I have shared. Okay. Yeah, so we'll start the full stack development session for the day. So Shivaram sir, I hope my voice is
Yes,
audible.
ma'am. Good evening. Yes.
Yeah, good evening, sir. You can take over the class. You can start it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, hello everyone. Good evening. So, I hope everyone had a wonderful day. So, let me just share my screen. So, yeah, welcome to day 10 of full stack development. So, today, before diving into what is MongoDB, so I'll just give a quick revision of what we went through yesterday. So, let me just open my yesterday slide. So what and all we went through yesterday? Yesterday we went through what is Node.js, right? So what is Node.js? So Node.js is nothing but your runtime environment. And then we went through what is synchronous and then what is asynchronous. And then we understood at what times you need to use asynchronous and synchronous, right? And then what we understood what is an event loop. Due to this event loop itself, we can achieve asynchronous programming in the Node.js. Then we went through how to set up Node.js, right? And then we went through what are file modules. So through file modules, what you can do, you can create files, you can read files, you can rename files as well as directories. Okay. What are directories? Directories are nothing but your folders. Okay. Then we went through what are path modules. And then we got to know how to access my current path and then current directory name. After this, we went through what are events and then how do you create custom events. Whenever you create an event, first you should emit and then you need to listen through it using on method. So after this, what would we go through? We went through what is a HTTP module, right? Using HTTP module, so we created a mini server and then we listened at a port number, right? After this, what we went through? We went through what is NPM. So what is NPM? NPM is like the pip. For example, since you guys are familiar with Python, so every programming language has its own package manager. Okay, in similar way, we have something called as pip. So what is pip? Pip is in Python, we have pip. In JavaScript, we have something called as NPM. So what is NPM? Node Package Manager. Then we went through what is nodemon, right? So what happened is whenever I created something, I had to restart again and again. This caused a lot of problem. So what happens when you install this nodemon package, it will automatically restart your server. Okay. Then we went through what is Express.js. So what is Express.js? Express.js is nothing but a framework where you can build a server. And then through this server, you can handle all your HTTP requests. Okay. Then we went through how do you create your server. First, you need to access app. Through app, you need to what? You need to create routes and then you need to listen. Okay, at the port number. And then we set our port number and also we went through what are status codes, right? So by default, 200 means it is okay, 21 means it's created, and then 400 means bad request, 404 means not found. We'll go through what are status codes again in this classes, and then we went through what are routings, right? You can see every HTTP methods has different kinds of methods, right? Every HTTP like get method, post method, put and delete. And then for everything you have request and response object. And then we went through what is a middleware. So what is a middleware? Say for example, you want to create a middleware for authentication authorization. So before the request gets sent to the route path, so what happens is middle will intercept the request and then we can get some data or else add something data and then we can forward it. So the main thing here is you can modify your request and response objects. That is the use of middleware. And also we went through how to create a middleware, right? So now what we went through is, let me just open my yesterday's project. So what we did in yesterday, so yesterday we created a dummy project, right? We created a backend server and then we created different methods here. So what is ports? And then we went through what is get and then put. I wanted you guys to do this and then we went through what are delete. So here what we did is, so since we are not connected to backend, just for the time sake, I just created a variable and then we thought of this variable as the backend, right, as the database. So in today's class, what we will do, we will create an actual backend, which is our MongoDB. And then whatever data we'll be sending here, will actually go inside the real database. Okay, with this, we'll complete our complete backend project. Okay, so before that, let me just open the today's slide. I'll just close this yesterday's. So today is MongoDB. So what is MongoDB? I guess you guys would have been familiar with MongoDB, right? It's one of the most common terms in IT. So what is MongoDB? So MongoDB is nothing but your NoSQL database. So since you guys are from AIML, so I guess you guys would have been familiar with what are databases, right? So most of the time you'll fetch your raw data from the databases itself. So what happens is, so in database world, there are two kinds of database. So one is SQL and NoSQL. So we'll go through what is NoSQL. As of now, you just need to know MongoDB is a NoSQL database. And then it stores data in the form of JSON. So we went through what is JSON, right? So JSON is nothing but an object. If it's confusing, you can compare JSON to the dictionary in your Python. Okay. It is one of the most widely used because the main advantage of MongoDB is it has more scalability and then high performance and it is faster. Okay. And then it also works good with Node.js and Express.js. Okay. So today we will get to know how to connect my backend to the database. Okay. And then there is something called as document-based storage. That means all the data you stored in the MongoDB will be in the form of document. So don't get confused by these fancy terms. So document is nothing but a JSON-like format. So we'll go through in depth what is this. And then there is one key point which is called as flexible schema. So you know, right, for example, say when you're creating some, for example, like MySQL or else like PostgreSQL, first you need to define a schema. And then what you need to do? You need to create the database. Okay, but the thing in here is, here the schema is flexible. That means it's up to the user. That means it's up to you guys. So you can create your own schema, or else if you don't want schema, you can just raw code it. Okay. Then what are the features of MongoDB? You can see in this diagram. First is it is object oriented. It is document oriented. That means we'll go through what are documents. So as of now, you just need to know documents are nothing but your JSON-like data. And then replication. That means you can avoid replication. And then there is a very good load balancing. And then it is schema-less database. Okay, you understand what is schema, right? The schema defines the structure of your database. And then we have something called as sharding. So that means it will store data in different machines. And then indexing for faster fetching. Okay, here you can see that it has flexible schema, it is high performance, and then it has more scalability. That means what happens is all the data gets distributed across multiple servers. So for example, you store all the data inside a single server, right? It gets heavily loaded. So with this MongoDB, it will automatically handle all these things. And then, so we went through what is SQL and non-SQL, right? So you guys know what is RDBMS. That means relational database. That means this is an SQL. So what is MongoDB? It is a NoSQL. You can see in this diagram here. In SQL, all the data is stored in the form of tables. You know this, right? First, you'll create a table and then you'll insert a column. But in MongoDB, it doesn't work that way. So MongoDB, what happens is you have something called as BSON. Okay, BSON and JSON are both kind of, it will sound familiar, but don't get confused by these terms. We'll go through what it is. So, but what happens is, so all the data which is stored inside MongoDB will be in the format of JSON. Okay, but it will be stored in BSON. Okay, don't get confused by this. So you can see here, for example, let's just compare our RDBMS with MongoDB. Okay, MongoDB is nothing but your non-relational database. So what happens is you can see database is similar. In your MySQL database, which is our SQL database, all the tables are nothing but your collections. In SQL, you call it as tables, but in NoSQL, you'll call it as collections. Okay, you guess you need to map this name so that you won't get confused as we code in MongoDB. Okay, then what are rows? Rows are called as documents in your MongoDB. And then what are columns? Columns are called as fields in your MongoDB. We'll go through this one by one. As of now, I'm just comparing with SQL because you guys are familiar with SQL, so that when there is a good comparison, it will be easy to revise again. So here you can see in structured database, right? That means our SQL. Data is stored in the form of tables with fixed rows and columns. You know this, right? And then there is a fixed schema. That means before you add the data, you need to predefine a structure schema, and then you need to add the data. And then for SQL, you'll use something called as SQL queries, right? For example, you'll get select star from database where age is less than 45 or else where name is equals to so and so. For that, you'll use SQL language. But in MongoDB, what happens is all the data is stored in the form of document. So we'll go through what is document. We just need to know these terms, okay? So the almost all the data is stored in the form of documents. That means it stores the data in the form of JSON. What is JSON? JSON is nothing but your key value pairs. You can compare this to your dictionaries in Python. Okay. Then there is something called as dynamic schema. That means there is no fixed structure. That means I told you guys, right? It is up to you guys. So you can create your own schema or else you can directly add the data without the schemas. And then instead of SQL, you'll use something called as query methods inside MongoDB to query the data. We'll also go through this. As of now, you just need to know that your tables are your collections, your rows are your documents, your columns are your fields. Okay. Now here, we'll see the actual structure of the document. So as of now, I just kept on saying document, document, right? So here you can see the structure of document. So what happens is we went through, right? So what are collections are nothing but your tables. So here in like NoSQL database, data is stored in the form of documents. So what is documents? You can see here, this is my document. So here in this diagram, right, to the right side, you can see this whole field, collections, the orange one. Think of this as your table. Okay. Inside table, you have document 1, document 2, and then document 3. So what's the structure of document? You can see it is nothing but your JSON. So what is JSON? You can compare this to your JavaScript object or dictionaries. You can see there is a key and then there is a property. There is a property and value. You can see there is class property value, age property value. Similar way, you can store different documents inside your collections. So here, what does collections act like? Collections will act as a table. What does your documents will act like? It will act as a records. Okay. Here, instead of record, instead of a structured way, you store it is in the form of JSON. Okay. Here you can see collections are equivalent to tables in your SQL. Okay. And then one collection can hold multiple documents. So what are documents? Here you can see your normal JavaScript objects. And then there is no fixed schema here. Okay. Then what are documents? Documents are nothing but your equivalent to rows in your SQL. So what are rows? You know, right? If you have a table, each table will have a row. But in here, there is no concept of rows. So what you will do, you'll create documents and then you'll store that inside your collections. Okay. Then you'll store the data in the form of JSON and BSON. We'll go through what is this, what are the differences. You just get to know that there are two terms called as JSON and BSON. So, and you can see whenever I create a document, right, there will be something called as underscore ID. So what happens is whenever you create a new document, MongoDB will automatically generate a unique ID, which is your primary key. So you can use this unique ID as your primary key. Okay, you don't have to manually create a unique ID. So MongoDB will automatically do that for you. So now we'll go through what is JSON and BSON. JSON is nothing but your JavaScript object notation. BSON is same thing, but B means binary. So what happens is whenever you want to communicate between two guys, right? For that you use JSON. Say for example, if I want to store this JSON data, so what happens is it will consume a lot amount of space. Or for example, like what happens is the thing you can see in the difference here. JSON is an abbreviation for JavaScript object notation. So BSON is nothing but your binary JavaScript. So what happens is whenever you store your JSON data, it will be in the format of .json. Okay, but here you can see in BSON, the data is stored in the form of binary. So you know what is binary, right? Since you guys are from the CS background, binaries are nothing but your zeros and ones. So what happens is JSON is human readable format. You can see here, right? I can read what is ID, I can read what is class, I can read F name, the first name, I can read what is age. But what happens is MongoDB will use something called as BSON, which is binary JSON, because it is more faster than JSON. You can see in the difference here. BSON is faster whereas JSON is slow. The reason why it is faster because It is binary. So what does machine understand easily? The binary data, right? So what happens is MongoDB directly handles all the JSON in the form of BSON. Okay. Don't get confused by what is JSON and BSON. BSON is nothing but a binary JavaScript object notation. So all the data gets stored in the form of BSON. Okay. Then now the theory part is done. I won't bore you guys with the theory. So let's just start setting up our MongoDB. Okay. So first thing is, first you need to go to your Google Chrome and then you need to type MongoDB and then download. So what happens is, as soon as you type this, you'll get something called as community server download. That means this is the free version. Okay. In MongoDB also you have something called as paid and free version. If you have something called as community, means it is free to download. So click on the first link and then come down. Here you can see this is the current version. Which platform, if you're running an Apple or else some other OSs, you can select. So here I'm running on Windows, I'll select Windows. And then you have two options here. One is MSI and zip file. So zip file means you have to extract it. Okay. What I'll do, I'll just click on MSI. That means you can automatically install it. So since I have already downloaded, so what you guys will do is just click on download and then click on next until it gets installed. Okay. Once this part is done, so what happens is, next you need to install another thing, MongoDB shell. Okay. Come here, click on this MongoDB shell. Then you need to scroll down. Similar thing. Here also you can install zip or MSI. It's up to you. I have already installed this. So there's already this software in my system. So I won't install it again. So just click on download and then click on next until you get installed. Okay. So once this part is done, just let me just, you understood, right? First you need to install community server and then shell. So in MongoDB, there are three things. Okay. One is called as CLI. So this shell, right? This shell is nothing but your CLI. So what is CLI? Command line interface. That means you write commands. And say, for example, you don't like commands, you just want to something like colorful, right? For that, you have something called as compass. We'll go through all this. So compass is nothing but instead of you practically writing commands, with compass, you can just get the interactive. That means graphical user interface. And then you have something called as Atlas. So Atlas is usually used for the cloud. Okay. So since we are not using cloud, so we'll just set up MongoDB in locally. If you want to install Atlas also, you can install here. MongoDB. So Atlas is usually what happens is, instead of creating the database locally, you will create the database inside a cloud. Okay. So here you can see, if you click on Atlas, it will open Atlas. First, you need to set up here and all. And then once you do this, there is a lot of process here. And then you can see here MongoDB in the cloud. Okay. We'll be not using this Atlas. So we'll be just using CLI and Compass. Okay. So now once all your installation has been completed, we'll go through how do you access it. So now go to your Windows and then you need to type Compass. Mongo. You can see here, as you type Mongo, you'll get MongoDB Compass. So click on this. Okay. Once you click on this, so what happens is, let it load. You can see here, this is my MongoDB Compass. So what is Compass? Compass is nothing but your GUI, your graphical user interface. So we'll get to this later. First, we'll just go through what is shell, MongoDB shell. So for that, you need to open command prompt and then you need to type CMD. Sorry. The command is MONGOSH. This is the short form to open Mongo shell. And then you need to hit on enter. Okay. You will get something like this. If you're not getting this right, you guys have to set up your environment variables. Okay. Since you guys are from CS, I hope you guys know how to set up environment variables for your MongoDB. Okay. So now once you get this right, The command is mongo sh. Okay, this is the command. Okay. Once you type on mongo sh, it will open your MongoDB shell. So once you open the shell, you will get something like this. That means you are successfully connected to the MongoDB. So now what happens is, so every database has databases, right? So how do I check my databases? For that, the command is, you can see here, show DBS. DBS is nothing but the short form for databases. So now what I'll do, I'll come to my command. Here, I'll just type show DBS. So once you click enter, you can see these are the number of databases I have. So you guys will be having some 4 to 3, that is fine. So since I kept working on this, I have so many databases. Okay. If you type this command show DBS, it will show all your databases. Okay. Here you can see there is something called as admin, cars DB, food DB, library. So these are all my custom databases. You guys will be having some 4 to 3. That's fine. Okay. So now we saw how do I check my databases. Okay. But how do I So now this is how you check the databases in your CLI. So what we'll do is, so we'll just type the command and then we'll see in the GUI so that you'll get a better understanding. Okay. So now similar way, how do I check my databases in my like compass? I'll just close this. Go here. You can see here, as I click on connect, you can see here, these are my database. You can see I'll keep it side by side. These are same things, admin, block DB, cars DB. You can see here I'm accessing the MongoDB in my graphical interface, but here I'm accessing inside the shell. Okay. So now the next command is how do I use the database? Okay. Go to your command prompt. The command is use database name. So here what happens is in MongoDB there is a catch here. So what is the catch? For example, what MongoDB will do is, say for example, you create a database name. I'll create a users DB. Okay, what will happen here is, if this database is not present here, MongoDB will automatically create the database. Okay, you need to understand this. I'll say this again. Whenever you use a database, if this database is not present here, MongoDB will automatically create it. If it is present, it will use the database. Okay, it won't throw an error or something. So as soon you can see here, there is no database here called as user DB. So as soon as I click on enter, you can see just a minute, it's taking some time. You can see switch to DB user. So now my test got switched to user DB. So now if I type the same command, show DBS, you can see a user DB will be created. You can see here, the user DB has been created. Okay. So now I'll check in my GUI. I'll come refresh here. Taking some time. So yeah, it will be created. Okay. So now what I need to do is, the third command is, first what you need, for example, if you guys are getting confused, right, try to compare this with your SQL. So what is the first process? First, you'll see your databases. You'll use the databases and then you'll create a table. So what are tables in MongoDB are collections. So here there are two ways to create collections. So one is using this command, create collection and then users. What is users is nothing but your table name. That means here it is your collection name. The second way is you will directly use this command called as insert one. Okay. What does insert one do? You can see in the name itself, it will say insert means it will insert the data. Okay. So what I'll do is just go to the shell. So first type DB. Okay. DB dot your table name. So what is the table name here? I'll just give the table name as users dot insert one. Okay. This is a function. What is the syntax on MongoDB? What does it store? Object, right? So what I will do, I'll create an object here. Okay. Here, what I'll do, I'll pass ID. So ID is 1, comma, user name, Rohan, and then email. Okay. So now as soon as I click on enter, you'll see what will happen. You can see this is the command on how do you insert the data inside your MongoDB. Okay. You have two options here. One is you can create the collections, or else directly you can insert it off. So what MongoDB will do, if this collection is not there, it will automatically create your own collection here. You can see here. One step is you can use this command, or else you can directly use users. So if this collection is not there, it will automatically create it and then it will insert the data. Okay. Let us try running this. I'll click on enter here. Look at, you can see acknowledge true. That means this command had successfully run. So now what I will do, how do I check my data? So I'll go here, I'll refresh this. You can see at last there is something called as user DB, right? So click on this, you can see, refresh again. You can see there is something called as users here. So what is user DB? User DB is your database. So what is users? Is your table, that is your collection. Once I click on this user, you can see my data has been successfully added in my MongoDB. Okay. So now half of our process is done. So what we did, we successfully added a data in my database. So how did we do that? Using the insert one command. So what happens, right? Say for example, if you guys are from the SQL background, this MongoDB will be like very easy for you. The command is, I'll just give a quick, for example, like a trick for here. Whenever you create some operations, right? For example, like create, update, delete, or for example, like get, you usually come across only two functions. So one is find one, find many, insert one, insert many, delete one, delete many, update one, update many. That's it. It's as simple as that. You just insert one, insert many. That means you'll insert one document or many documents. Update one, update many, delete one, delete many. So we'll come across this, but I just want you guys to understand that it's very simple as that. You don't have to make it complex. Okay, here you can see I have successfully inserted my data inside my collection. So what is DB here? DB is my database. What is users? Users is my collection. Like it's nothing but your table. So what is insert one? Insert one is a command on how do you create the data. Okay. So now what happens if I do insert many? Okay. I'll just write the same command. So if you want to write the same command, right? Once you come to this line, you need to click on up arrow. Okay, if you click on up arrow, what the shell will do, it will automatically copy paste this inside my terminal. So here, instead of one, what I'll do insert many. Okay, I'll come here. I'll create insert many. This many, it will take an array. Okay, come across this. I'll close this inside an array. Here, I'll add another object. Okay, here I'll give an ID as to username. So it's up to you guys. You can create anything you want. So I'll just add my name itself. Sorry, it should be inside the string because this is a string, right? And then email. Okay. So now if you see, if I click on enter, acknowledge true, that means my command has successfully run. So now what I need to do, I'll come here, I'll refresh this. Taking some time. Till my internet is slow. That's the reason why it's taking some time. Okay, so what happened? MongoDB said acknowledge true. The thing was I forgot to close the bracket here. That's the reason why it was showing three dots. Okay. You need to close your brackets at the last. You can see acknowledge true. That means 2 new data has been added to my MongoDB. So what I'll do, I'll just go here, I'll refresh this. You can see here, there are 2. What is Rohan? This has been replicated. We'll see how do we delete this and then a new document. So this is nothing but your document. So what is this full thing? What is your users? It is your collection. Okay. Now you can see in the PPT here, whenever you want to create something, right? There are 2 operations. One is insert one, insert many. So insert one, what you'll add? You'll add an object. So this object, you can add any number of properties you want. The schema, there is no schema here. We studied this, right? There is no schema here. So here you can add any number of properties you want. You can add name, address, pin code, salary, jobs, like etc. etc. It's up to you guys. And then insert many means it will take an array. Inside array, you can add any number of projects. Here you can see Bob is one document, Charlie is another document. It's up to you guys. You can add 20, 30 documents. And then there is something called as find. In the name itself, find is nothing but it's like the search in your SQL. So how do I, so in GUI, in the compass, I can see here. But how do I see this data inside my shell? Is it possible? Is it? It is possible. So how do I do that? If you type CLS, your screen will get cleared. So how do I check the data inside my shell? For that, the command is db.collectionname.find. Once you click enter, what will this find do? It will return all the data inside your MongoDB. You can see there is Rohan, and then there is Shiva. Okay. Here you can see all your data is there inside your shell also. You can see the same data inside your compass also. So now say, for example, if I want to get only the Shiva's data. For example, I'll add some other person. db dot users dot insert one. Here, what we'll do, I'll keep it as 3. And then user name. What is username? You can, it's up to you guys. As of now, I'll just create. And then email, right? So now what happens is if I click on enter, it has successfully added. So how do I see that? I need to use this find command. So you can see there is Rohan, Shiva, and then Sam. Say for example, I want to find only the one who has the username Sam. So how do I do that? For that, the same command, instead of find, what you need to do, you can see in the PPT here, there is another method called as find one. I told you, right? Find one, insert many. It's very simple as that. So what I'll do, instead of find, I'll do find one. So and then I need to pass which like document I need to find. Which document I need to find? The one which has username Sam. Okay. Once you click enter, you can see I got the object. That means it returned the ID of the Sam. It returned the username as well as email of the Sam. Okay, this is how you find the data in your MongoDB. Okay, don't get confused. It's very simple. Find one, find. So find one means in the name itself, it says find one, just one. Find means everything. Okay, similar way, insert one, insert many. So similar way, in the MongoDB, you have something called as update also. It will also take the same command. Update one, update many. In the delete, you can see, sorry, just a minute. Remove this. I'll just zoom in. Here you can see update and delete, right? In the same case happens here also. Update one means it will update a single document. Update many, what it will do? It will update multiple documents. Same thing with delete also. Delete one means it will delete only one user. Delete many means it will delete all the users. So let's see how do we this. You can see in this inside my MongoDB. So I'll just type CLS. It will clear everything. So I'll just check the data which I have. So what is the command? db dot users dot find. It will return everything. I have these two Rohans what duplicated. I need to remove this Rohan itself. So how do I do that? You know there is a command, right? Delete one, delete many. So what I'll do, I'll just, since I have duplicate here, I need to delete many, not a single one. Okay. So what I'll do, what is the command? Delete many. And then I need to pass a column name. So which column I need to delete? Okay, so let's just go through the syntax. How do we delete? So the command is, it's very simple. It is same thing. db dot users dot delete many. Here you need to pass based on which category you want to delete. So which category I want to delete? I want to delete the username who is Rohan because there are duplicates here. So how do I do that? User name, and then you need to specify which username you want to delete. Rohan, right? Rohan. So you can see as I hit on enter, you can see acknowledge true. That means my Rohan, you can see deleted, delete count is 2. That means 2 records has been, two documents has been deleted. So how do I check again? Find. You can see I just have Shiva and Sam. Rohan has been successfully deleted from the document. So now here you can see in the GUI there is still Rohan because I didn't refresh. So so just now see what happens as soon as I refresh. Rohan is gone. Okay. This is how you do delete operation. Okay, inside your MongoDB. So now you guys are familiar, right? How do you? So this is also the same thing. Update also, first you need to specify your column name, which like which column you want to update, and then you need to use something called as set, and then set the value. Okay, this is very simple. Now we went through how do you insert one, insert many. How do we get the data? Find one, find many. And then how do you update and delete? Similar thing, find one, sorry, update one, update many, delete one, delete many. Okay, and then let us see some query commands. Okay, what are query commands? The thing is, in MongoDB, right? Say for example, I'll just try to populate this data. So since I just have only 2 records, I'll try to add another 2 records. Okay, how do I do that? db dot users dot insert one or many. So what do I need to do? Insert many, right? What is the syntax? It is a function and then it takes an array. Inside that, I need to create objects, nothing but a JSON. So what is the properties? First is ID. I have ID2, ID3. So what I'll do, I'll create ID4 and then user name. Okay, here you can give anything. Miraj. Okay, then email. Okay, and then I'll create second object. Here I'll do. I have 4. I need to create another one. 5, right? And then user name. So which username I'll give? It's up to you. And then email. So username, create Naveen. Oh, sorry, it should be inside the quotes. Okay, and then you need to define the name. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll click on enter. You can see it is saying that insert menu is not a function. That means there is something problem here. You can see the spelling mistake. Instead of insert, I used insert. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to click on up arrow and then go through that INSERT. Now if I click on enter, you can see acknowledge true. That means you have successfully added this data. So how do I get the data? I'll just do CLS to clear everything. db dot users dot find. So now you can see there are 5 objects. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 4. Okay. Understood this? So now let us do something called as query commands. So now say for example, as I'm finding, I need to limit only to two datas. For example, say, since this is our own example, we have four. Say, for example, you have something like 200, 300 documents. You cannot send everything, right? For example, say you want something to limit it. So for that, you have this command called as dot limit, and then you need to specify how many documents. Okay, let's try to use that command. db dot users dot find. So sorry, db dot users dot find, and then you need to specify limit. If I do one, right, you will see what happened. It will just return only one document. If I do the limit to two, right, you can see it returns two documents. Okay. So now you understood this part, right? Limit. And then there is something called as sort. Sort means in the name itself, you know what is sort. Sort is nothing but it will sort your data based on ascending or descending. So here there is a catch. For example, whenever you use a sort, you just can't simply use sort because you need to sort based on some column name, right? Say, for example, some guy will say he needs to sort on username. Some will say you need to sort on email. So you need to specify which column you need to sort. And then there are two commands here. If you pass one right, it will sort it in ascending order. If you pass -1, it will sort in descending order. So we'll see that. So what I'll do is I'll clear everything again. The command is cls. So now what db dot users dot find, and then I'll do dot sort. And then you need to specify based on what I want to sort. I want to sort on username. Sorry, it should be inside the username. So here I need to pass 1. So 1 means it's ascending order. -1 means descending. So we'll see that. You click on enter, you can see NA, NE, yes, and yes. Okay. If I do -1, right? So you'll see what happened. You can see it has reversed. Okay. This is how you use your query commands in your MongoDB. Okay. So for example, the thing is, right, when you're learning something, for example, if you type query commands in MongoDB, right, I'll just go through the document itself. The thing is, there will be so many commands. Okay, as a beginner, you should not go through all those. You can see there is so many commands here. You can see as I scroll, it will keep on going. You can see there are so many query commands. So the thing is, when you're learning something new, right? Try not to learn everything all at once. So first, try to learn which commands you'll use majority of the times, and then try to like get a quick, for example, like strong command on it, and then start exploring more and more. Okay. So now here you can see there are so many commands here, so we'll not be going through all those. Okay. And similar way, you have something called as operators also in MongoDB. Okay. What are operators? Say, for example, you want to check, I'll come here. I need to check whether the email is equals to shiv@gmail.com. So how do I do that? You can see using this $eq. That means this is all inbuilt commands inside your MongoDB. Okay, there is something called as GT. If you want to use greater than or equal to, there is GTE. So there are hundreds of commands. So just try going through which are used majority of the times. Okay, so here we'll just get the rough idea of how do you access this inside your MongoDB shell. Okay, so now I'll just try to use this command EQ. EQ is nothing but equals to. So how do you do that? Say, for example, I need to find something, find some document here where the email is equals to sam@gmail.com. So how do I do that? So for the db dot users dot find, here you need to do, here you need to pass an object. So what is that? Here you need to specify which column you need to do the calculation. So here, which column is that email is there? Inside the email column. And then you need to pass $eq. That means it is equals to what? sam@gmail.com. Okay. This is how you write your queries in MongoDB. As a beginner, you'll get confused by what is $eq, so what are those different things. So don't get confused. Just try to write as much as query commands. So if you want to explore more, you can go through the MongoDB documentation. Here you can see there's so many commands here. So for example, right here only you can see how to query and write. You can see we went through what is find, right? And then we went to what is insert, and then we went to what is update. You can see there is some commands called as logout, drop rule. So you can go through all this in your free time. So here we'll see, we'll just use a $eq means these are your query operators. Click on enter, you can see. You can see it returned only Sam. That means what was my command? My command was search only this EQ, right? Based on this EQ, it will search only the whatever matches this equals. Say for example, since my user's data, it doesn't contain a property called as age. Say for example, you have this age and you need to check based on the age. You can use something called as GT and all. Okay, which is nothing but a greater than. And then there is something called as aggregation pipelines inside of MongoDB. So what are aggregation pipelines? So what happens is, here you saw we used query commands individually. For example, like limit, sort, and then equals, greater than. What happens is sometimes if you want to write complex query commands, right, you'll use something called as aggregation pipelines. So using this, you can transform filter data using multiple query commands. Okay. Use aggregation pipelines whenever you want to use multiple query complex commands. You can see the syntax here. db.sales is nothing but your collection.aggregate. Then you need to specify an array because here I'm writing multiple query commands. First query command is $match. Inside $match, I'll pass a property called as status active. That means here you can divide it as a steps. Step one, first we'll check whichever status as active. For that, you need to use a $match. Here you can see it will include only the active status. The second query command. So what is the second query command? Group. Here you need to specify based on which property you will group. That means which column. Here I'm grouping on ID column. Okay. Here you can see group by product field. And then you can do something called as total amount where you can see there is dollar sum. We went through what is $eq, right? This is for equals. So dollar sum means to add up. And then you can see that this will sum. So here, this is just a syntax on how you can use multiple query commands inside your aggregate pipelines. So these are usually used whenever you're doing complex operations. So since this is just a very simple operations, so we won't be using query commands. So I want you guys just to know that there is something called as like aggregation pipelines where you can write complex queries. Okay. Still here you understood, right? How do you create? So for example, there is something called as collections, is nothing but your tables. And then you create documents. And then using these commands. So what are the commands? Insert one, insert many. Find and find one. Update one, update many. Delete one, delete many. Okay, this is very simple as that. You don't have to worry. And then query commands. Query commands are used to query. For example, say you want to limit, you want to check equals to, greater than, and then you want to sort. There are many query commands. And then aggregation pipelines are used whenever you want to write complex queries. This is the syntax. You can see this is one query. This is one query. You can add any number of queries inside you want. Okay. Now we will see how to connect to Node.js. Okay. Once this is complete, our project will get completed fully. Okay. So now what we'll do, I'll open yesterday's project itself. Yesterday we set up Express.js, right? What I'll do is I'll keep something and I'll try removing some data. I don't want this. Middleware is okay. I'll remove this route is okay. I'll remove the what you guys do is if you have the same data, right? Yesterday we created this, right? Or like Express project. So what you do, keep all the routes, but delete all the logic inside. Okay. Okay, once this is done, I want this also. I'll just create get post put and delete. Okay. So now once this is done, I'll just give a quick revision of how do you do this. First, you need to install Express.js. Once you install, you need to use in require express and then you need to extract this. So once this is done, you need to use const app is equals to express. Once this is done through app, you'll are able to access all the Express.js functions. So yesterday we went through this, right? How do you create this? How do you create middlewares? So here we created two custom middlewares yesterday, right? So what was that? Is admin middleware is current date time middleware. So what happens is this will modify your request and response object. So how do you call your middlewares using use? Then how do you define routes? Using app.get. So after this, you need to pass a path. So which is the path? Since we were working on APIs, we created something called as API/users. So what was this? This is your REST API architecture. Okay. Then every route contains a callback function. What does this contain? Request and response. What is request? Request is the data which you are getting from the client, which is your browser. So what is response? Response is the data which you are sending to the client from the server. Okay. So now after this, you need to do app.listen and then you need to mention the port number. And then through the callback function, you'll log it. Okay. Once you run this command, what will happen? Our Express server will run in this port. So which is our port? 3000. So now we'll try to run this. So how do you run this project? Go to this REST API project, right click on this, open in integrated terminal. So once this is done, you need to, what is the command to run? We have a package called as nodemon, right? Here you can see yesterday also we installed this project nodemon. What does this nodemon do? It will automatically run your server again. So how do you do this? Nodemon index.js. Okay. Once this is done, I'm successfully running my server. So how do I check this? Go to your browser, type on localhost 3000. Here you can see I'm successfully getting. So how do I check whether I'm getting something? I need to define in the route, right? So I'll go to my index. I'll just send a dummy message. Here you can see API/users. Once you do this is for API. Say, for example, I want to send some HTML itself. So what is the command? So API dot get. So what is get? Get is your HTTP method. So we went through right yesterday. There are four most common HTTP methods: get, post, put, and delete. Okay, get. And then you need to pass a callback function, request response. And then here I'm using an arrow function. Okay. And then since this is my server, what do I send? I need to send a response. Dot send. I'll create a h1 tag. H1 hello from server. Okay. Then I need to close my h1 tag, right? So now if I rerun this again, Control C to stop the terminal and then rerun again. So now if I refresh, you can see I'm getting this data. So how am I getting this data? Inside the port 3000 because my server is running in the port 3000. You can see here I have mentioned 3000. So if it goes to this slash, so what is slash is your default route. So if you don't have anything here, it is nothing but your slash. Okay. This is your default route. Okay. So now once this is done, let's start creating our project. So how do we do this? If you guys still are getting confused, right? I'll start from fresh. I'll remove everything. So now let's start from fresh. So how do we do this? Once you need to create your npm module. Once you do that, you need to create an index.js file. So once you do that, you need to go here. You need to import express is equals to require express. So once this is done, what you need to do, you need to call the express. Const app is equals to express. Sorry. Okay. So once this is done, you need to listen, right? App.listen, port number. I'll give 3000 direct. Here, you can create a variable and pass, or else it's up to you. You can directly send it. Okay. Then you need to send a callback function. This callback function, I'll simply console log. What I'll console log? Server running in port 3000. Okay. So now I'll just stop and run this. Now you can see my server is successfully running at 3000. So now what I need to do is, first I need to connect my Express with the MongoDB. So how do I do that? So what happens is, in real world applications, right? Whenever you're trying to build a backend and then trying to making communicate with the database, you won't directly interact. You'll use a third party packages, because if you directly interact, it will be very hard to write the commands, to do schemas, validations, send the data. It will be very hard. It will be, for example, what happens is it gets complicated. So to avoid that, you'll use a third party packages. What does this third party packages will do? It will act as a middleman. So whenever you're sending some data from the backend, from the server to the database, you won't directly interact. Through the middleman, you will send the data. Okay, you understood this? So whenever you're using Express.js and MongoDB, there is a package called as Mongoose. Okay, there is a package called as Mongoose. Okay, what happens is, this Mongoose is nothing but an object data modeling. So don't get scared by this term. This is nothing but, this acts as a middleman. So whatever, like for example, like code or operations I want to do, I will do through this Mongoose. So what will Mongoose do? Mongoose will generate that MongoDB data, and then it will take care of the work. So I don't have to write MongoDB query commands. So I'll just interact all my data through Mongoose. So what will Mongo do? Mongoose will in turn, does it work with the MongoDB? So you understood it, right? What happens? I'll just try to do this. So here, this is my server. Okay. Here, this is my server. I'll just try to zoom in. So what happens is, this is my database. Okay. So now if I want to do some communication between, right? If I do directly, what happens is it will become like very complex and very hard to handle. So for that, I'll use a third party package called as Mongoose. So what will Mongoose will do? Whatever data I need to do, I need to fetch data, I need to create data, I need to delete data, I will send it through the help of Mongoose. What will Mongoose do? It will take my data, it will do some like actions and operations. You can call it as magic, and then it will communicate to the database. And then what will this database do? It will also communicate through this Mongoose, and through this Mongoose, I will fetch the data. You understood this? Mongoose is nothing but a third-party package which makes easy to build the applications. So now we'll install a package called as Mongoose. Okay, how do you do that? Come here, stop the server. What is the command to install anything in Node, like in Node project? npm I mongoose. Let's just go through the documentation of Mongoose. Okay, you can see here, Mongoose provides a straightforward schema-based solution to modular application. You click on this, you can see this is the documentation of Mongoose. You can see, with the help of this Mongoose, you can create, you can access, you can create, for example, yesterday we went to write CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete. All this can be done through Mongoose. Okay. So you click on read the docs, you can see here, there's so many data you can access. In the free time, you can go through this. So now you understood why we need Mongoose, right? To make your life easier. Okay. So now you can see here, Inside package.json, my mongoose has been installed. So now I need to run this. So how do I run this? Node1 index.js. Okay. So now it is running. So first step is I need to connect my database to my application. So how do you do that? So come here. I'll write a comment here. Connect to database. So now what you need to do is first you need to import mongoose. So how do you do that? Const mongoose is equals to require mongoose. Okay. First, you need to import the mongoose inside your index.js file. Okay, once you import, come to this line. You need to mongoose dot. As soon as I click on dot, you'll see what will happen. You can see there's so many methods I can access here. So as of now, you just need to connect. So what is the command? There is a function called as connect. Inside connect, you need to pass something called as query string. So what happens is whenever you want to connect to a database, right? Every database will be having something called as query string. So through the query string, you can connect the database. So now this is my database, right? My MongoDB database. So how do I access my query string here? So here, if you come to this left part, you can see localhost 27017. And to the right, you can see small three dots. If you click on that, you can see this copy connection string. Okay, you need to click on this. Come here, three dots, copy connection string. Then you need to copy paste that connection string here. That means this is where your MongoDB application is running. You can see this is running in my localhost because this is my Compass, right? Usually Compass and CLI runs in your localhost, and then this is the port number. How do you get this connection string? You need to go to the Compass, and then here you need to copy the connection string. Once this is done, what mongoose.connect will do is it will return a promise. We went through what is promise a day before yesterday, right? It is an asynchronous function. So how do we handle that? There are two methods. One is dot then and then dot catch. Okay, what does dot then do? If the promise has been successful, it will run this dot then method. If the promise has been failed, that means if the connection is successful, it will run dot then method. If the connection gets failed, it will run dot catch method. So here, since this is an asynchronous function, I'll add a callback function. So here I'll simply log data is connected. Okay, I'll remove this colon. If it does, for example, if there is some error while connecting, right, I'll console log again. What I'll do, I'll console log error connecting to data is. Okay. So now, if I rerun this, let us see whether it will successfully connect or it will get an error. You can see it is success. You can see here, mongoose.connect, you need to copy paste your connection string. So once you copy paste the connection string, what you need to do, you need to use dot then dot catch because this returns a promise. So this is how you handle promise. You can also use async await. It's up to you guys. So here I'm just using dot then dot catch. So if it is successful, I'm printing this message. If it is an error, I'm printing this message. Since there is no error, I'm getting this one successful. So now I have successfully running my express.js function and then I have successfully connected to my database. So now the only part is adding data to my database. So how do I do that? For that, you can see in the PPT, first there are steps. The first step is you need to define a schema. So, previously I told MongoDB is schemaless. But why am I saying schema? The thing is, when you're creating some applications, right? The schema, most of the times, even though MongoDB doesn't need schema, you need to give a schema so that your code will be tightly structured. That means you won't get some errors. For example, if I create schema, I know whatever data I'm sending will be the same data is going to the database. If there is no schema, even though if some properties are missing, it won't throw an error. With the schema, what happens is you can do schema validations. Say, for example, the thing in here is, since I'm building an backend application, let us go through how do you create a schema. For example, you can see in the database here, instead of username Shiva, if I send a number, MongoDB will accept, okay, because it is schemaless. But this is a problem for me because I want this to be a string, okay. How do you achieve this in Express? So for that, what you need to do is, you need to first create a schema, okay. This is the step one. First, how do you create a schema? Come to your folder, create, right click, and then schemas.js. Okay, here what you need to do, here you need to create a schema. So what is the schema? So instead of this, I'll just delete this. From here, new file. So here you can, it's up to you, movie schema.js. Okay. Once this is done, the syntax on how to create a schema is first const mongoose, right? Mongoose is equals to require mongoose. So once you do this, using mongoose dot, there is something called a schema. This schema takes an object. Okay. Now in this object, I'll define the structure of my movie database. Still now we went through users, right? Now we'll go through what is, we'll just create movie database. So here, this schema contains a property called ID. This ID will be number. And then it will contain another property called as movie name. This will be of string. And then it will contain rating. This will be a number. Okay. I'll just create 3 properties. So this is enough for me. Once you create a schema, this will return a variable. Movie schema is equals to mongoose.schema. This is the syntax on how to create a schema. First, you need to create a variable movie schema, and then using mongoose.schema, you need to define the structure of schema. Schema is nothing but the structure of your data. Here you can see ID is number, movie name is string, rating is number. So here what will happen? Instead of movie name, instead of rating, if I send a string, right, it will throw an error. Okay. Once the schema is done, you can see the second part is, using schema, you need to create a model. Okay. How do I do that? Here you need to do const user is equals to mongoose dot. If you put dot, you can see under schema, there is something called as model. This model takes 2 parameters. So one is the model name, movie. Sorry, I need to use movie, right? I'm creating a movie database. And then the second one is the movie schema. Why do we need a model? The thing is, schema just defines the structure, but I cannot access the schema. If I want something to be accessed and to perform operations, I need to create something called as model. So through this movie model only, I'll do all the CRUD operations. Okay. First, you need to define a schema. Using schema, you need to define a model. And then you need to do this model. So now here I'll export this model. So how do you export? Module dot module dot exports is equals to movie. Okay. Once this is done, I'll come to my index here. What I need to do, I need to import the model. Const movie is equals to require. Here I need to pass from which file? Movie schema.js. Okay, here what I'll do, here you can see, first step is I need to create a database, right? Here you can see there is no movie database. There is a movie database here. What I'll do, I'll just delete this. So sorry, this is a mobile. Is there a movie database? There is something called as movie review. You just leave that. Because since I have worked on this previously, there is in my system, but this won't be in your system. Okay. So here you can see there is no database called as movies DB. Okay. So now we'll create a database. So how do you do that? Before you create a connection, right? Here inside the connection string, you need to mention your database name. Here I have mentioned in the PPT. Whenever you connect to the database, you need to mention first you need to put the connection string. Once you put the connection string, you need to specify the database name inside the URL. So how do I do that? You need to come here, movie DB. Okay. This is how you create database inside your Mongoose. First, you need to copy paste the connection string and then you need to specify your database name. So what will happen? Once I rerun this here, you can see as of now, if I refresh, there is no movies DB. What happened if I rerun this, you can see my database will be generated. Okay. So now once my server is running and successfully my database is connected, the third step is you need to create a schema and then from the schema create a model and then export this model. Through this model, we'll perform CRUD operations. So first what we'll do is we'll try to create a data and then we'll try to fetch the data. Okay. So now come here in the index. I need to define my routes, right? How do I do that? Routes. First, first is I'll do post because my database is empty, right? I need something to fetch. So for that, I'll do app.post. So inside post, what I will do? First parameter is URL. Movie. Okay. I'll just give a similar endpoint because I'm following REST architecture. /movie. So once this is done, text request response. Okay. I'll create API/movie itself. That is better to read. API/movie. So once this is done, how do I access the data here? It will be inside my request, right? Const movie data is equals to request.body. Okay. So now what happens? Yesterday we went through what is Thunder client, right? It is used for testing. So I'll open the Thunder client and then click on new request. So here what I'll do, I'll copy paste the URL where my server is running inside the 3000. So I'll come here inside the Thunder client, I'll paste it. And then what is that? /API/ sorry. /MOVI. Is it movie or movies? Just movie. Okay. Once this is done, what will happen? First, I'll create a get to check whether my API is working. Dot get inside get /API/movie, comma, callback function. You don't have to type this. I'm just checking whether I have successfully I can access this path. Rerun this again. I'll go here. So this you can see access. So I can successfully access my route path. So now what I need to do is I need to add the data. So how do I add the data? So here what will happen? The data you are sending through this Thunder client, right? So how do you send? First, you need to click on post. So once you click on post, you need to go to body. Inside body, you need to select JSON. So inside JSON, here you can see inside my MongoDB Compass, I don't have anything. Here you can see my movie DB is created. So how did I create this? Using this, right? Here you can see movie DB. My database is successfully generated. But if I click on this, there is no data here. Okay, I need to add my data not through the shell, through my Express project. Okay, this is the server. Through the server, I have successfully connected to the database. So now the only work is I need to add the data. So how do I add the data? To add the data, first I'll just console log to check whether the data I'm successfully getting. So how do I do that? Request.body. Inside post, I'll console log request.body. So how do I send this request.body? Through your Thunder client. So go to the post method body. Here you need to specify. So what is the schema I created? You can see the schema is ID, movie name, rating. So I need to pass the same data. Okay. ID, I'll give 1. And then movie name. John Wick. And then rating. What is the type of rating? It is a number. I'll create 9. So now what will happen? If I click on this end, you will see what will happen. You see here at the bottom of the screen. Taking some time. I'll try to rerun the server. app.post/API/movie. Post. This is loading, so let it roll. So the thing is, whenever you want to add a data, right? So how do you do that? You need to first create a schema and then you need to create a model. Through this model only, you need to add the data. So first, manually I'll add the data and then using Thunder client, we will add the data. So this is still processing. The internet is slow. So now what we'll do is we'll manually create a data here. And then we'll try to add this data inside my MongoDB. Okay. Wait. The thing is, oh yeah, I need to use a middleware, right? Because I'm sending the data in the form of JSON. That's the reason why this Thunder client was not working, because I'm not using this middleware. So now I'll try to rerun this again. Now if I send, the internet is slow, I guess. Let me cancel. I'll just create this manual itself. Okay. Const movie is equals to ID one movie name. Runway. Rating or ratings? Rating itself. Yeah. Rating. Keep it 9. So now imagine this data you're getting from the front end. Since I don't have the front end, I'll just imagine this. So imagine this data you're getting from the front end. This data you need to add it to your database. Okay. Here you can see my database is empty. My MongoDB is empty. So how do I do that? So for that, what you need to do is first, you need to convert this function as async. Okay. The reason why you need to create async, because whenever I make a request to the backend, it is an asynchronous, because I don't know how much time it will take. So I'm making it as async. Whenever you create an async, what you need to do, you need to use try catch blocks. Okay, this is the common syntax on how do you write asynchronous code. I'll copy paste this inside my try. If there is an error, I'll just log error creating movie. Okay. So now inside try, I have this data. My task is I need to add this data inside my database. Once I add, that means I can successfully do all other operations. So how do I do that? Const result is equals to, you need to await, and then you need to use the model. So what is the model? Movie dot. Here you can see, where is the movie? Yeah, I'll just go through the schema. Movie schema, exported movie. Inside here, I need to use movie. Inside, we went through in the PPT, right? How do you create, for example, like insert one, insert many, but inside the mongoose also, you'll be having same thing. Okay. Here you have something called as create. Okay. What does create do? Instead of you remembering insert one, insert many, mongoose will make it easier for you. Okay. You have method called as create. Inside create, you need to pass the data. Movie dot. Here, I'll pass the movie data. Okay. Then I need to send the response to the client that I have successfully added the data. Response dot JSON. Here I'll send a message. What is the message? Data. Movie data. Model, purchase. Okay. So now let's try to rerun this. And then try to hit on this API method using post. I'm getting the message. Let me check my database. Yeah, you can see I have successfully added the data which was inside my Express.js inside the MongoDB. Okay, now we have successfully saw how do you connect your MongoDB and then your Express.js, which is nothing but your Node.js application. And then we have successfully added the data inside our database. Okay. Similar way, you can do all other operations. I have mentioned in the PPT, if you want to get right, there is something called as find. So let us just define that and let us see whether it will work or not. So app dot use slash API slash movie, comma, async, will take, sorry, request, comma, response. And then I need to use try and then catch. Inside catch, what I need to do, I'll check for the error. If it is error, I'll just log fetching movie data. If it is success, const result is equals to await user, sorry, movie, right? Movie dot find. And then here you need to pass an empty object. That means I need to find everything. This is the syntax on how to get all the data from your mongoose. Then I'll send a response. Response.json. I'll send the result itself. And now I'll rerun this and I'll check inside my Thunder client whether I can successfully access the data, which is there inside my MongoDB. So how to do that? Here I'll change it to get method. I guess there's something wrong with the path itself. Copy. Oh, sorry, I have two to get methods. I'll remove this. I'll try run. So now you can see the thing is you can't have two HTTP methods. Sorry, get right. You cannot have two HTTP methods for the same path. It will conflict. Okay. So now I'll try to check whether I can successfully fetch the data from the backend. So how do I do that? Go to here. You can see here I'm getting John Wick. That means I can successfully create the data as well as successfully get the data from the database. So which is my database? My MongoDB. Okay. Once you do this, you guys can go through how do you perform delete operations and update operations. Okay, it's up to you guys to explore. Now we got to know first, I'll just give a quick revision. You need to install Mongoose. Using Mongoose, you need to connect. How do you connect? Through the connection string and then movie database name. Once this is done, you need to create a schema. Inside schema, you need to specify which all columns you want and then the type of the columns. And then you cannot directly access the schema, right? So for that, you need to create a model and then you need to export it. And then for the different routes, for the different HTTP methods, I'll use async. And then using the model, you can access different methods. Using this, you can create the data and also get the data. And then you will send the data in response as a JSON format. Okay, here if you don't use Mongoose, right here, it's very hard to write your complex MongoDB query commands. If you use Mongoose, it makes your life easier. Okay. Similar way, if you go to the Mongoose documentation, you can find here how you can, here you can see delete many, delete one, find by ID. So you can access all these methods inside your Express.js application. Okay. This is for you guys to explore. Okay, you can see here, you can access all these methods. That's it. Okay. So apart that, our Node.js and MongoDB has been completed. So now we successfully got to know how to create a server and then how to connect to the database and then add a data and fetch the data. Okay. So from the tomorrow's class, we'll go through the like Next.js. Okay, Next.js is gonna be fun because the front end and back end you can create inside a single application. Okay, you don't need two applications for that. Using Next.js, you can write both code inside a single framework. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can ask in the comment section. Other than that, I want you guys to practice this project because it's very crucial to learn backend. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable class. So, students, as I informed the starting of the session, this is full stack development session. So, if you guys want to join for digital marketing, the link will be shared to your particular group or something. Okay, so from tomorrow you can join over that link only. Only today there was some miscommunication and misguided. You have shared you the full stack development link. So tomorrow there will be no issue. If you want to join for digital marketing, you can join with that link. Okay. So yeah, we are done for today's session. Thank you all. Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you, sir.